Here is everything happening in Uma Musume for the month of May. It's a rather more relaxed month compared to the Gold Ship Week filled month that we had in April, as well as the packed next month in June, but May still has some interesting banners though. Starting things off though, on the 7th of May will be a new round of legend races featuring Mejiro McQueen, Rice Shower, and Mejiro Bright. And then on the 10th of May, well, actually, first off, on the 10th of May, Sunday, the second Sunday of May, this is your friendly reminder, in case you might have forgotten, that depending on where you live, there's a good chance that this Sunday, the 10th of May, is going to be Mother's Day. So plan accordingly. You're welcome for your reminder. Otherwise though, also on the 10th of May will be the start of the registration period for CM13, aka Taurus Cup. Since we've made a full cycle now throughout all the zodiac signs, this is now going to be the second time that Taurus Cup has been the champions meeting. Now, if you win the champion meeting, you will of course receive the Taurus Platinum title. However, if you already have the Taurus Platinum title from the very first champions meeting, then winning a second time will add a little star to the title. So think of it like a prestige in Call of Duty or something like that. Now, if you're thinking that maybe you don't feel up for taking on another champions meeting so seriously in the graded league, starting with CM13, aka the Taurus Cup now, the open league rank will have been adjusted so that now the upper limit UMA that you can put in will be an A+ UMA, a pretty big improvement from the previous B rank limit. So if you're perhaps a newer player and you don't feel confident going up against what will most likely be a bunch of S+ and SS's and even the occasional UG UMAs, then Open League might be an option for you as a newer player. Otherwise though, as I mentioned, registration for Taurus Cup begins on the 10th of May, although round 1 will actually only start 3 days later, so on the 13th of May. But at the same time on the 10th will be a new banner featuring the new UMA Mejiro Palmer, as well as a rerun banner for the Rice Shower Power and the Matikana Fukikitru Speed SSR cards. Mejiro Palmer is of course a frontrunner like her best pal Daitaku Helios, but she specializes in medium and long distances. However, she is also actually going to be our second ever frontrunner who gets access to the Runaway front style. Now, in order to get this Runaway green skill, it is tied to her secret event for winning both Arima Kinens as well as the senior year Takarazuka Kinen. And so, because this is a character-related event, that means that you will not be able to make Mejiro Palmer a frontrunner, or a Runaway front specifically, during a Track Blazer run. But that's fine though, because she still works as a regular front, coming with a gold version of Playtime's Over, as well as a gold version of Keeping the Lead for long distances, 2 very nice gold skills. She also gets early lead and frontrunner savvy innately for some groundwork procs. And as for her unique Keep Pushing Ahead, it provides a speed increase as well as a bit of a recovery for a slightly extended period of time at a 6-second long base duration, which is basically on par with a Gold Ship Anchors Away, just, on a front, which is still pretty good. Remember, most skills have a base duration of only 5 seconds. In order to activate this unique though, she does need to have remained within the top 2 positions from the start of the race until the second half. So obviously if she's made a runaway, it's very easy to stay in the front too. Otherwise, as a regular front, it might be a bit dependent on how many fronts are in the lobby. Now, just so you are aware, it only checks the positioning after the first 5 seconds of the race. So if say Palmer has a really bad start and she gets out of the gate in 5th only, but she does manage to get back into the front after a couple of seconds, it will still count for her being in the front since the start of the race. As for the support banners, the rerun for the Rice Shower and the Matakana Fukikitru cards are not really that important, as there are way better speed cards coming up down the line, for example, the Agnes Tachyon scenario banner in a few months from now when Grand Live comes out. So this rerun is pretty safe to skip. Then we've got about a week of rest with no events until the 18th of May, which will be the big event of the month. Now, it won't exactly be a June bride wedding, but it will be the start of the new wedding event, The Promised Hour, Silks and 3 Riddles. This will of course feature an UMA banner with the wedding alts for Karan-chan and Fine Motion, as well as a support banner with the Iconodictus and the Haru Urura support cards. The event will be the usual story event plus point ladder and roulette wheel for some rewards, which will include the free Rice Shower Wit SSR card. Starting things off though, looking at the UMAs, firstly with the wedding Karan-chan. Much like the original, she is a pace sprinter with a unique that gives something very similar to the OG Karan, in that it gives a speed boost and an acceleration boost in the last 350 meters of the track, when somebody is trailing behind her. This can obviously help her out in that final push to eke out a win. And is of course perfect for sprint races where the final 350 meters of the race is basically close to the start of late race, where you want the acceleration as soon as possible. Otherwise though, the devilish Karan-chan, dressed in all black, has a good set of skills as well, with some debuffs actually as well for sprints. Aside from her gold acceleration skill, which is always nice for sprints, she also has the gold intimidate, which lowers the speed of those behind her. And to hit those in front of her, she also has hesitant front runners too, so basically everybody's speed gets debuffed. And then the next Uma being Wedding Fine Motion. She is of course, like the OG Fine Motion, a pace chaser for miles and mediums. Her unique skill gives her a velocity boost on the final corner or later in the race, assuming she is in a good position. But if she activates this skill while there is at least 400 meters or more left in the race, she will also get an acceleration boost. So basically when she activates this very early into the late race, or if it is a longer track, then pretty much anytime she activates it will also give her the acceleration boost. Otherwise, she has a nice set of gold skills as well in the gold version of Head On called Neck and Neck, which can further help her accelerate on that final corner entering late race. But she also has a good mix of innate skills for both medium and mile skills, as well as of course some pace chaser skills sprinkled in. And then as for the support cards, starting with the Haru Urara card, much like the Urara Guts card, this version has no skills tied to it for any hints. Which is actually a good thing though, because this means that every hint you take with Haru Urara is guaranteed to give you a chunk of stats. Namely, 4 stamina and 12 power. Her first chain event does also have a chance to give Charming, which is always nice. And at max limit break, she gives 2 skill points whenever you train with her. Unfortunately, the one skill that she does give from her completing her chain event is the gold version of Fighter, which is not exactly ideal. A random acceleration for late surges triggering whenever is not exactly the most consistent thing. Realistically though, Urara is still good as just a base stat stick. Meanwhile, as for the Econodictus Stamina card, she has an interesting new gold skill for late surges that drains your stamina in order to increase speed. So on longer tracks, this might seem a bit scary to do, because you probably don't want to drain your stamina, but as a stamina card herself, ideally, you have enough from training with the Econodictus card. The issue though, is that she does not have a lot of specialty priority. In fact, she has no specialty priority actually, so making sure you actually get the stamina that you want might be a bit difficult with this card. She does have 10% race bonus though, which is nice, as well as up to 20% training effectiveness, which is only acquired once you have a max bond with all of your supports. And then as for the free Rice Shower Wit card, well, it's a free card, so you can't complain. And at least the art is nice and she's cute there. But as for the actual support card itself, yeah, it gives some pretty bad pace skills, with the gold skill being Shatterproof, which gives an acceleration when your pace chaser is towards the back, which ideally is something that should never happen. She also has a low specialty priority, which is not the greatest thing to see, and she only gets a measly 10% training effectiveness once you finally get her to a rainbow training, so a bond of 80, with no other boost until that point. So you're kind of stuck with a pretty much dead card until you have her at 80% training or 80% bond. And then lastly, towards the end of the month on the 28th of May will be the Inari One banner, and yet another rerun banner for the Admire Vega Power and the Sakura Chiyo O Stamina SSR cards. Now, Inari One is an incredibly versatile Uma, even more so than Agnes Digital. She has an A aptitude in both turf and dirt, so she can run both surfaces, and then she has good aptitudes in mile, medium, and longs, which is one step higher than Agnes Digital. She can also run as a pace, late, or an end closer. Although because she specifically has an A and end closer, while only a B in late and pace chasing, she is definitely a bit more suited towards being an end closer, or at least somewhere towards the back, especially when you consider what her innate skills are. For her unique, if she's been in 4th place or lower for the first half of the race, then when she's fighting for the front on the final straight, she will get a speed boost. Again, this is very easy to do if you put her as a late or an end closer. And then as for her innate skills, she comes with innate straightaway spurt, as well as the gold skill Tail 9, so the gold version of Tail Held High. Very similar to Tamama Cross, which is actually kind of funny now that I think about it, that she's similar to Tamama Cross, Inari One. Otherwise, Inari One also comes with end closer straightaways, and her events can give her ramp up, as well as a variety of medium skills. As for her other gold skill, it is the backline recovery skill specifically for dirt tracks, which is not exactly ideal. You can always just grab regular recovery for whatever distance that dirt track is, which is typically going to be a medium, since I don't imagine you would need a recovery for a mile race. And there's not any long distance dirt races, so that's also not really necessary there. But otherwise, Inari One is great though for making a versatile end closer on almost any track that isn't a sprint. And then as for the supports, much like the other rerun banner, this one is pretty safe to skip too. Sure, Admire Vega does give a nice skill in Daring Strike, but so does Mr. CB Wit, which we did just recently get a few days ago. And then the last thing announced for May, although I guess it's technically more of a June announcement, is the registration period for Gemini Cup, aka CM14. But the registration period will begin on the 31st of May though. CM14 will be the Yasuda Kinen, which is pretty much just like a mini Japanese derby. Quite literally, in fact. It's also held in Tokyo, and it is just the last 1600 meters of the derby, just as a mile track now. It has the exact same straights, corners, hills, etc, etc. But otherwise though, that is it for the month of May. A lot of reruns, only one really new support banner, and only 2 brand new fresh Umas. Although to be fair, Palmer and Inari One are some pretty good Umas to look out for though. And then there of course is the wedding banner for Fine Motion and Karan-chan. Is there anything that you're excited for this month, or are you saving it all for next month for some of the big banners like the Taiki Shuttle banner, or maybe even further beyond, like the Summer Gold Trip banner? Let me know down in the comments below. But otherwise, until next time, bye bye!